Hello, sheeple. Sorry if I look a bit dishevelled, and look and feel dishevelled actually. Life just doesn't give you the time and money to have the manicures we deserve, I guess. Got a few slideshows for you again, just to make sure I don't forget any of the vital points that I want to get across to you in these videos, especially this one. So, I hope you're well in this world that's very sick. I think that's possible. I have more abhorrent things that I would like to talk to you about. I'm sure you won't let me hinder your pursuit of happiness in any way, and I wouldn't want to. Probably going to need to grab a big cigar and an even bigger glass of whiskey. And as usual, I'm going to get straight to it. Let's talk about our faith in authority, culture, civilization. And the best way I can describe our civilization is by talking about actual civilizations that once were and how they might have been. They're destroyed and gone now, so and most of our history is a lie, so a lot of what I'm going to say is only what my heart tells me. I'm in Australia, so let's start with our indigenous culture. Our indigenous culture, our peoples were invaded in 1788 and destroyed just like so many others. What's left after 50 to 70,000 years of history is a few sad relics containing next to none of the original grace. Some people insist that the culture still exists because of a few indigenous living off the land up north and remembering a few of the traditional languages, some of the art and skills. But the true spirit is gone, and the ways of the world's oldest living culture, outside that of Africa, are dead. But I pray this is only on this plane of existence. Even after being exposed to heinous and compassionless levels of contempt and brutality, these people were kept in degradation as if by a satanic force for many years after the initial slaughter. No human being should ever be depraved enough to do this. In Tasmania, not a single Aboriginal survived, and the prison colony Tasmania became was legendary for its barbarity. Between 1910 and 1970, a breeding program was enforced to literally breed the remaining indigenous out of existence. This is an important point. I'll come back to this later. Some Aboriginals I have spoken to, never full-blooded, not surprisingly, speak of treachery committed by both invaders, mainly invaders, but also by their own, who I believe were degraded by our will. Between 1901 and 1966, our filth continues with the Keep Australia White policy. I recall jokes even today, such as keep black people out and get an extra hour of daylight. Of course, hardy ha ha ha. Well, I'm half Nigerian, you may be able to tell. I've heard worse, I suppose. By 1965, Aboriginals gained voting rights in the new, disgusting society. I remember seeing a picture of a very young Aboriginal child who apparently had the privilege to meet and bow to the Queen. Remember how David Icke says the Queen is reptilian? Well, she certainly reminds me of a dragon, a compassionless monster sitting in its lair, upon mountains of plundered gold, silver, diamonds and trinkets stolen from murdered civilizations. That was a very brief history of Australia. Many other cultures suffered all the same. I don't need to go into detail because I only need to make 3 specific and absolutely vital points. The invasion of Australia was relatively recent in the scale of things. Other civilizations, such as the indigenous Americans, the Incas, the Andean civilizations, Mesopotamia, the list goes on and on and on and on. These were destroyed many years before. Here's the first vital point I would like to make clear. A lot of people think that all the brutality, the filth, the downright evil are in the past. Nothing to do with me, they say. I wasn't even alive back then. Neither were my parents or their parents. I understand we're not directly responsible. But that brutality, that filth, that downright evil didn't dissipate through the generations. It's right here. It's gone nowhere. Would you like proof? Well, you're going to get it. We're all going to get it. There's a food shortage coming. We all know what our neighbours, our friends, our family, even in our community, are going to do. We know what's going to happen in society when there's a food shortage. It's not going to stop at the theft of food. It's going to be rape, murder, destruction that's without rhyme nor reason. The same mentality as the invaders. There's no change. We can barely handle a shortage of toilet paper. Want more proof? It took 5 minutes of blatant propaganda crap about the Ukraine conflict, and sheeple want to go and kill the Russians. Sod all the other conflicts if they're not on the TV. We're going to start World War III complete with astronomical levels of misery and death, because that's who we are. That's who we've always been. I thought that by now we would have run out of places to invade. Zelensky, Putin, Biden, obviously Trump, and every other major leader are on exactly the same team. It's even easier to drive us pathetic sheeple into organised genocide than ever before. Another thing many people think over here is that our civilization is better than the one we destroyed. Even when we say we admire the old culture, we're usually being patronising cunts. Sorry for the language. We think they were primitive morons that needed to be brought in line with the 20th century. We have put so much passion into weapons and methods of absolute domination by any means that other cultures wouldn't have been able to even comprehend this. They didn't stand a chance. This brings me to my second vital point. Now, I have a very positive feelings, but I can't 100% be sure of the morality in many of the ancient civilizations. But could we possibly be better than any of them? And we're not even autonomous. To even be a civilization, every individual has to be able to function both individually as well as in their society. We must live together purely because that's what we like to do. Any groups of people helping organise infrastructure, agriculture, or any large projects do only that. They just help organise. They're not given and they don't desire power and control over others, and will never, ever become today's governments. The police force in London, where I grew up, began in 1829. Yes, there are other forms of of enforcing the rules before them, but now it's really official. This is often hailed as a great thing, when in fact it's vermin control. Vermin control set up by our governors. And yes, sadly, we're the vermin. We're the vermin. Reminds me of the slave patrols in southern United States, 1700s, that apprehended runaway slaves and quashed any of their rebellions. Autonomous, civilized people do not need law enforcement. They are connected to nature, the universe, each other, and all living things. There were reports that some of the first visitors to foreign lands, that of course they eventually got wiped out by them or the next visitors, but they found that these indigenous had telepathic abilities and could communicate many things with their minds alone. Qualities like this had to go. Our owners could never control such people, hence another reason for their destruction. Such people know what the weather's going to be, they know where they are even if they've never been there before, basic communication between even other species. And here's the main thing, any possible disputes can be solved usually before they start because they know, understand and feel each other. Any disputes me and you have with a neighbour, we find that we're not on the same page. They're unreasonable or malicious, uncompromising. We have to go to the civil court, or it escalates to the criminal court, or you can punch it out and the meanest and strongest wins. There's no connection. We can't feel them and vice versa, if they even care. And we often know so little, even about ourselves, we can't even figure out if we're male or female these days. We require mountains of rules and regulations to survive in this sad joke of a society. I can't take a crap in my own toilet if it's not council approved. Police enforcement has become militarised, increased in numbers, judicial powers, weaponry, technological surveillance, and they are increasingly separate from the general sheeple. And unfortunately, we will self-implode without this nonsense. I mentioned earlier that there was an enforced breeding program for indigenous Australians. And this brings me to my third and final vital point. I'm pretty confident our owners are doing the same thing to us. Bear with me. They have amazing psychological knowledge and the power to execute surreptitious global agendas like, spraying the crap out of all the skies and this murder and the climate change nonsense that they're doing. They started, it's intentional. It would be very easy for them to, keep certain groups together, keep other groups apart, or other iniquitous actions I couldn't even imagine. But they're doing it. Combine breeding with toxic gene-altering chemicals sprayed in our skies, in our food and water, and injected. You know what I'm talking about when I do this. I'm not allowed to say it in fascist Australia, because if I keep saying it, the police will be kicking down my door and dragging me off to jail, throwing me in the police cell with Julian Assange for the crime of telling the truth. We're being altered on a genetic level. Take a wolf. It's autonomous and beautiful. We breed it down through all the species of dog, choosing the mental and physical qualities that we desire. At the most extreme end, we get some bizarre creation, and despite looking really cute and exotic, especially when you put clothes on it, it has numerous mental and physical health problems. It can never be returned to the wild and is 100% dependent on the assholes that created it. We created the dog. The elites created us. We've been bred to the desired qualities of our masters. We have physical and mental health problems. We can never return to the wild, very sadly. Maybe I'm wrong about that. When I say we can never return to the wild, I mean we can't return to a natural, autonomous and harmonious state, like where you don't need law enforcement. And we're 100% dependent on this world and the evil that created it. Us sheeple can try to form our own communities, but if they get too big, we'll end up needing law enforcement and possibly a government. And you add 2,000 years to that, and we end up back where we started, right back here. And that's if we even survive. There are enormous amount of clues in cave paintings, surviving architecture, and legends of beings that had a massive worldwide presence. Cave paintings, pyramids, tons of stuff. Is this the force that owns us today? That uses governments as a go-between, conduit, to get to us, of course. Is this the force that bred qualities into us, such as greed, selfishness, perversion, fear, drug dependence, as the disharmonious slobs that we are today? And now, this force wants to cull most of us, and you know how they're doing it, and loads of other methods, of course. And they're going to keep the surviving wretched souls under the most austere control ever imagined. This force is completely and absolutely devoid of love and compassion, but we still have some left. So I'll end on that beautiful positive note. Love you and leave you, and the moonlight fades with the morning glow. Goodbye, sheeple.